Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, our final guest, Anton Skarlatov, has developed a franchise concept which has been successful in both the UK and Australia and is now set to clean up in Ireland. Fantastic Services is an award-winning home services and maintenance franchise, and they have recently appointed a master franchisee in Ireland. Anton, before we go in behind the door of Fantastic Services, I'd like to get an insight into your own career journey.
What's interesting about me, I got a different education. I got an education in finance, in economics, in microelectronics, and that's what helped me into developing the business to where it is. Of course, I also have a business partner and a co-founder, Rune, who is a marketing expert, and that's also helped a lot and benefited the company. I've all my life, not all my life, but since about 20 years ago, I've been into business and I've been doing different businesses. Where 11 years ago, me and my business partner, Rune, we came up with the idea to organize the services and to help and support service providers in home services with marketing, online platform and everything else. And that's how we end up creating the brand, Fantastic Services, about 8 years ago. And we've been running it as a franchise until now. I think that's in a nutshell. That's what about me.
And how did you first identify the need for the Fantastic Services franchise?
Well, everything starts, very often the business starts the same way, especially in the service industry. You needed a service and there's no one to provide this service, or there's someone provided to you and it was a bad quality. In my situation, I was moving out of a flat and the agent came up with, and I was, as I say, 11 years ago, he came up with a price of about £300 to clean, we call it the after tenancy cleanup of the flat. And they wanted to charge me about £300. I was like, well, that sounds a lot. What are you going to do with this? And they were like, well, we'll call one guy who'll come and clean your carpet. We'll call someone else who'll come and clean your oven. We'll call someone else who'll come and clean your windows. We'll call someone else who'll come and clean the whole house. And I was like, well, that's super inefficient, isn't it? It's like getting so many people around doing one job. And that's when I came up with the idea. I said, well, why not put in all these people in or train someone to have the skills to be able to do an oven cleaning, a carpet cleaning, a window cleaning, and then put this, it happened to be 2 people actually we needed in one van, and they can do this job in one go instead of organizing all this. And this way, I've managed to cut the price in half. And that's how really the business happened. It was all about like getting it cheaper for myself. And then I ended up going to all the agencies, all the landlords, offering this service, and they loved it because it was less hassle and it was cheaper for them.
So what are the main services that Fantastic Services offer today?
Well, that's a very good question because we're trying to define ourselves, not exactly as a service, as a one service provider, and call it that's a main service, but we define ourselves actually as a service provider, and that's the main service. We do services. And Fantastic Services has been adding more and more household services in the last couple of years. And predominantly Fantastic Services now is more of a one-place shop, one-stop shop, where you can find all the services you need for your house. Of course, the main services, like everything else, because the more needed services are the cleaning, cleaners, plumbers, handymen, and I would say pest control. And then we still have the junk removal, we have the removal services, and then especially now in UK, and especially the London and southeast of England, the removal service has been massive because people have been moving out of the city.
So why did you decide that the franchising route was the best route to actually grow the business?
I love this question because I'm doing business by yourself on your own. It's not easy. And also, even if you build a lot of teams and certain kind of organization under yourself, and it still doesn't work perfectly. because there's a lot of management, especially in this kind of field of services. We have to do a lot to control the quality. And that's where the franchise is coming. Because by you providing with franchise means number one thing means quality, means following the rules and the standards of the company. And that's why we came with a franchise, because franchise, it gave us the way of we can control the quality and we can implement one system for every one of our suppliers. And that's what was the most beneficial for us. And as I always say, if I ever start another business, it will be always a franchise business. And that's what I ended up actually a few years ago buying another franchise business myself, because that's what I believe in. It's easy. There's no point to discover, as I call it, the hot water. It's easy to implement. It's easy to start. It's way more secure than starting a business on your own. As we know, up to the year 3, about 60% of the new businesses they fail. Up to the year 5, then only 20 to 30% of the businesses are left. Where in franchise world, we don't have more than 10% of the business owners they fail.
And Anton, fantastic is in the name of the business, but how do you ensure it's in its nature?
Well, it's all based on our training and performance and following the system. As long as you follow the system, you'll get the right results. And the training is number one thing in Fantastic, and measuring the performance, right? One thing is we've created a platform called the Fantastic Academy. And in Fantastic Academy, all our franchisees and their staff, they can get trained the right way, the same way, and they can perform the same way of service. Number 2, we've built a system where we get the instant feedback from the clients. And this is a rating system where it gives you the result after every job, and every operative or every franchisee will be measured after each job, because in the service industry, you are as good as your last job. And that's how Fantastic managed to stay up to his name.
And provide us with an insight into a typical franchisee.
Well, a typical franchisee, there's a few types of franchisees. There's people who they like to change something in their life. They like to change something in their job, but they struggle to start on their own, and that's how they find a franchise. And actually, they've done the right thing, because they join a franchise platform as Fantastic or any other, and they get the support from the franchisor. Another type of franchisees, that's the people that they come with the mind of growing. And they know that if they start on their own, it will take them way too long to build the system, to create the marketing, to build the website, to create a design, to come up with a name, to build their call center, to build their online platform, to pick up the right one, to do all the connections with businesses. And that's why they say, well, look, I know I can do it myself. And they're doing it already themselves. They may have their own cleaning team, or they are maybe handymen themselves or plumbers. But they say, on my own, I won't be able to grow that fast. And that's why they come to somebody established like Fantastic, and they get us to help them to grow much faster. And I can tell you that we've accelerated people from a one team that they join us in 6 months or a year. They may end up with 5, 6, 10 teams. That's what you can get from the franchise network, and especially being part of Fantastic.
Before you discuss the appointment recently of a master franchisee for the Irish market, talk to us about the success that you've enjoyed with Fantastic in both the UK and Australian markets.
Well, we're one of the biggest I would say we're the biggest service company in UK, and especially in southeast of England, and the same in Australia. In Australia, we predominantly the 2 of the main cities there, which is the biggest part of the country anyway. That's Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth. And the success in London, that then we multiply the success outside of London, southeast of England, and now we've been moving to some of the cities in the country. And we still have some territories open there, but it's been an enormous success. And that's been because we have the numbers of services, and we have the right training and the right way to measure our quality and performance.
And how did the opportunity come about for you to enter the Irish market?
Well, we opened for international expansion at the moment. We've already actually onboarded a few other countries. And the Irish market, probably it's easier for us because it's in English, and we don't need to translate much. We don't need to change much. There's some certain similarities into the market, and then we found this amazing person in the country that came up to us actually, and we've decided to help and to develop it. Yes.
So talk to me about the expansion plans that you have through that master franchisee here in Ireland.
Well, there's always our will to take over the market as fast as we can, but there is a certain limits to this. Of course, we're starting with the main cities first, because that will give us a lot of visibility, and then go to the small areas. But that doesn't mean that if someone comes to us and someone wants to take over on the fantastic brand, that we won't do it even in the smaller areas and less populated areas. But that's the main thing. We go first in the main cities. We started with the main 3 to 5 cities, and then we're moving towards the smaller counties areas.
So what investment should a franchisee expect to make in the business?
The investment starts from 15,000 euros, but it can go further. It depends on the areas and how many areas you want to add for your portfolio, how ready you are to expand. If you come without any experience, we would not recommend you to take more than one area or one service, or maybe 2 services max. But then if you come with experience, if you have already a business, but you're struggling to develop further, you're struggling to expand further, to manage your staff, or to manage your clients, and you need a system for this, or you need a marketing to boost your sales, then you can take over on a bigger chunk of Fantastic and of the areas in the country.
And Anton, I believe that Fantastic Services was exhibiting at the International Franchise Show in London last weekend. Yeah. Must have been the first show that you were back exhibiting at. What was that like, and what were the numbers like at the show itself? And did you meet anyone from Ireland at it?
Okay, well, that's a nice question. Yes, it was very nice to go back and meet people and business people in Rio. It is very different, I can tell. I forgot how it is. And how nice it is, and how easy it is to make business. We came up with a lot of contacts. We came up with a lot of people. We met a lot of people. We met clients. We met franchisees. We met potential franchisees. I can't recall meeting anyone from Ireland, and that's what actually I think was the loss of this show this year compared to 2 years ago before COVID, where I think was about 2 or 3 times bigger, the show, and there was a lot of international visitors and a lot of international companies there, where this time I can say was predominantly London. I believe that people were still afraid to travel, especially internationally, but even into the country, because there weren't many people outside of London. And the visitors were probably 1/3 of the visitors before COVID. But I think that's not because of the show, it's more because of the COVID and still the situation what it is now.
And Anton, finally, talk to me about your long-term growth ambitions for Fantastic Services on a global scale over the next 5 to 10 years.
I believe that that's one of the most important questions, where someone is buying a franchise or buying into a business. They need to ask, is either buying a shares, you're buying a franchise, you're getting into a business one or another way. That's the question you need to go and ask. What's your long-term vision? What are you going to do in 5 years? What are you going to do? What's your strategy? What's your goals? What's your vision? Because a business that only thinks about day to day, or they don't have a vision, you may not expect them to do much. Well, number one thing in our, big, audacious goals there is, as we call it, a BHAG, is that we want to be in 70 countries. We want to be in 70 countries. We'd like to have over 2 million members to our platform. We want to take on the environment as a challenge, as a company, and that's why the third thing we have in our plan is the planet. We want to turn towards organic. We want to turn towards green. We want to offset some of our CO2 emissions. We'd like, yes, we're going to grow. Yes, we're going to go to 70 countries. Yes, we're going to expand further. Yes, we're going to take over on and add more technology into the business. We want to go greener as well. We want to look after the planet. We want to do something right. And in the last place is people. We want to have this 360 degrees happiness between our staff, our clients, and our franchisees. And that's what the vision of Fantastic is for the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Anton Skarlatov from Fantastic Services. And I'd like to thank Anton for taking us behind the scenes of one of Ireland's newest franchises.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast